I'm wearing it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Rome Show, Monday, January 27th edition of the Rome Show. I am here, your host, Andrew Romanella, taking you all the way up until the 8 o'clock hour. My brother Rocky here next to me. And, of course, we have a special guest in the studio, Mr. Rob DeToma. Rob, thank you for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, today we start the show with heavy hearts, as I think most shows and most people in America do, learning about the tragic incident with Kobe Bryant, his family, and the other 8 individuals that passed on the plane. Before we get into the show, really, and at any point in time, 609-807-2492, anyone can tune into the show on the Facebook, facebook.com/andrew.romanella, facebook.com/The Rome Show 1, or on the Instagram at Wide World of Rome. Tune in. We've been asking for our favorite Kobe memories, your favorite Kobe memories, and it spans way beyond the game of basketball. The three of us here, we'll get into ours here in a minute, but thoughts and prayers to the Bryant family, the Altobelli family, a Hall of Fame college baseball coach. His wife and his daughter were on the helicopter as well. 3 13-year-old girls, including Gianna Bryant as well. And fellas, I mean, if you're in the sports world today, if you're in the business of talking about news today, I don't think you start anywhere else but Kobe Bryant. So I want to give us each an opportunity, and we can start with you, Rob, and then we'll go to Rocky, just to kind of talk about, what Kobe meant to you and watching him play. And Rob, I know you had put something up on Instagram yesterday, and we've talked about the Mamba mentality together before, and just kind of dive into his life and his career.
Yeah, I think that'll be the Mamba mentality will be his lasting. It's awesome. I mean, obviously great basketball player, one of the best ever, but he'll have something that'll carry on generation after generation, more so than just highlights, championships. Every athlete coming up, it's crazy. Like, if you're in your 20s right now, this was your guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it'll be present at the Super Bowl, media day. It'll be football play. It wasn't just a basketball thing, and it actually trickled. The mentality trickled into the business world, to anyone trying to accomplish anything. So that was the point of my post yesterday, and also wanted to find something that his daughter was in, because that, I think, is the big twist. This wasn't a one-person tragedy. This was a couple families, and his wife now didn't just lose her husband; she lost one of her daughters. It's just obviously tragic. But to me, I grew up when Jordan was the guy, and a Bulls fan. And it stinks now to be a Bulls fan, but
Right.
So we kind of were the not Kobe people. He was supposed to be the next Jordan, and we fought off the next Jordan.
Right.
There wasn't going to be one. So I never really embraced his career as a fan. I was on the Shaq side when it was him and Shaq always disputing. So I didn't really appreciate it till it was probably too late to watch it in his career. You always root against him. But I think that was what made it so. Sometimes you see it as the person rooting against him. You appreciate it more than if you were rooting for him.
Sure.
So that's kind of my side of it. And then after he was done playing, the Mamba mentality stuff is what, as a coach myself, that mentality is something we're trying to instill every day with our team, ourselves. So that's what sticks out to me.
Yeah. Rock?
Sorry, I was a little too close to the mic. That's all right, though. So I got home from the wedding yesterday, and we turned the TV on, and it was the first time we had sat on the couch, and I had just had a moment to relax, and I had Fox News on for whatever reason, and I hit the guide. I was just searching through, and that's when the breaking news came on to break the news of the helicopter crash, and me and Jen were sitting there like, this is incredible. I don't know if, in my lifetime I've really felt this way about, a tragic event to either a sports figure or an entertainer. For me, I guess when I was young, Chris Farley passed away pretty early, but I was only in, fifth or sixth grade at that point.
Right.
I probably attribute it to a lot of people back in like the 60s and 70s when like Bob Dylan passed away, or even in the 90s when Kurt Cobain passed. Like you kind of felt that either the sports or the entertainment or the music that they were a part of, like that culture and that legacy was always kind of tied to that person. and that group of people was the most devastated. You know, if you didn't really like rock music, you didn't feel as upset as the diehard, Nirvana fan. But it seems like over the course of the last 24 hours, as more and more information transpires, that it's more than just basketball. It's the entire sports world. It's the entire entertainment world. I mean, if you had a chance to watch Grammys last night, it was just an incredible night that kind of brought, the thing full circle from, a tragic loss to, a new beginning. Everyone kind of has to start moving on, start the mourning process. So, but I think that that's just a tribute to Kobe himself and his legacy, and what he's left is that so many people are affected. So many people, and all in the best way, because it was all out of respect for what he accomplished in his life.
And I think that what's been interesting about today, and when you turn on the TV and you turn on the radio and you're listening to everybody talk about it, it's the stories that are being told of him that nobody even knew about. And when you realize how much he cared for more than just the game of basketball, he cared about being a family man. He cared about being the hardest worker. He cared about growing the game of women's basketball and making sure that female athletes had just as much respect in the professional sports world as male athletes. He was a huge advocate for the WNBA. And when you saw that, and I'm going to read a little bit of Derek Jeter's piece here in a minute, but I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me, though, and I heard a little bit of this before, is that Kobe had 3 phases of his life. And it goes with his number 8 jersey, his number 24 jersey, and then what he did after his career. And what was setting up to be some of the most impressive parts of Kobe Bryant was what he did after his career, is what he was doing as a father, what he was doing as a CEO, and how he was able to be a very unique athlete in the fact that most guys don't transition very well from being a great athlete to being no longer an athlete. And Kobe Bryant seemed to be the one guy that transcended how to do that appropriately and how to still wake up with the same mindset of getting better, of making sure you're pushing yourself and learning. And I thought, and it's fun too because, Rob and I were at the baseball coaches convention 2 weeks ago. And one thing you talk about when you go to the convention is it's all about learning and growing and talking with other minds in baseball and finding out what you can get better at. Well, you learned more about Kobe as a lifelong learner in the last 24 hours than you did about anything else. You could hear about all the times he knocked down shots in the gym to be a better basketball player, but I can't stop getting enough of learning about how he was asking some of the best players in other sports, training with Tiger Woods, becoming friends with Derek Jeter, learning from all of these people and making himself better in the process.
Yeah, he was pretty relentless in pursuing whatever he was pursuing, and sometimes I think that hurt his relationships with people, and other times I think it obviously led to, it's the only way you're ever going to be great at something. And I forgot who said it, but they were saying he didn't do movies while he was playing. Whatever he was doing, he was fully invested into doing at that time, good or bad, whatever you thought of it. So that I think is the separating factor. And he would never, when he went to the Olympics, they even said he was actually went a lot of the reason, obviously play for your country, play for Coach K, all that. But he liked the idea of getting some extra reps against NBA players from other countries, and they said he would take back some notes on how to defend this guy better next year. It really never ended for him, and I think that's the whole mentality that he's been teaching everybody.
Yeah.
No, I think what I've liked about today is hearing and remembering how he was as a player.
Yeah.
He is the bridge. Rob brought it up before. He's the bridge between Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
True. It
right?
is.
Right. He was there at the end of Michael and at the beginning of LeBron, and in the middle we got 5 championships of Kobe. We've got an endless number of highlight tapes, and people, they're talking about the 81-point game, and you forget that he's the only other player to score that many points in a game.
Yeah.
And then he had the 61-nighter at Madison Square Garden right before he retired, which was pretty cool.
It was his last game of his career, I think.
It was nuts. So, he's just done so many cool things on the court too. I heard today on the radio, and I forgot this until they brought it up, but before he got drafted as a 17-year-old from Pennsylvania, from Philly, he brought brandy to his high school prom.
Really?
Yeah, and until they said it, I didn't even remember that, but I started to remember. I was like, wow, like I was younger. I was probably in like 5th, 6th, or 7th grade when they started winning. So like you start to recall those memories of when you were like I don't know, you're like 10 or 11 years old watching SportsCenter every morning, and like you're like, oh, you know what? I think I remember that now. You know, like I wouldn't have, you think about your Stuart Scott commercials and your Dan Patrick and your Rich Eisen, but now, like, as you start hearing about what Kobe did while you were younger, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember seeing those highlights. I remember that dunk.
Yeah.
I remember the dunk contest.
Yeah, 100%. And in about 5 or so minutes, we're going to have Jonathan Macri. He is the host of the New York Knicks Film School podcast. He's a published writer on a few other sports websites as well. And Jonathan's going to come on here to talk to the three of us. And just kind of give some insight from the insider basketball perspective on what Kobe meant. And you mentioned a generation, right? So I think about it now, and I said this to my mom yesterday. I wear number 24, and I wore number 24 for Ken Griffey Jr. But this is when you realize how important numbers are. And this is when you realize, Mark Cuban came out and said, we're going to retire number 24 in the Dallas Mavericks organization because of how much Kobe Bryant meant to the game of basketball. For another owner of another organization to do something like that, I mean, that must really show you the effect and the legacy he's left behind. So let's take a minute here. And it can be a good story. It can be of you being a kid. It can be him on the basketball court. Give me your favorite memory of Kobe Bryant, whether it was, again, as him as a player or maybe more recently. I know you have a book next to you, Rock, that you happened to buy prior to this incident happening that has Kobe Bryant quoted on the outside of it and is a lot about Kobe Bryant's relentless pursuit of greatness. So go ahead, guys. The floor is yours.
I mean, to me, his career was they were so dominant the first three-peat that he had. I mean, they went through those playoffs sweeping the East most times, or 4-1 with the Sixers. You had to go all out just to win a game against these guys. So there aren't those, to me, when I think of moments, they're championship moments. They're not something that happened on a 60-point night in May. Not to take anything away from it, but regular season, 60 points, to me, he could have done that a lot of nights if that's all he was set out to do. They were special those nights, especially when it's your last game or you want to put up 80. But to me, it was that first run in 2000 when they were in a tight series with Sacramento, and it was game 6. They had not won anything yet. It was the first time. He's probably 20. He's probably in his second, third year in the league. And they were in a 3 or 4 point game with a minute to go, and it's that alley-oop. Famous if you see it. It throws it up in the air, Shaq dunks it, and Shaq looking like a 7-year-old running up the court.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah, they played the sound. They played the sound clip from that on the radio.
And that's like, if you ask people, if you ask Laker fans, that's the moment when they realize we're back to being the Lakers.
Here. We're back,
And then if you now in retrospect think of the relationship of Shaq and Kobe, what it turned into, and then luckily I guess they made up but the level of childish enthusiasm on those men at that time was the thing that stood out to me as far as his big moment. Obviously they won championships after that. They sweep the Nets, all that, but that, and then I think the symbolic moment of his career for the type of personality he was, where he was just unfazed and always on his goal, is the Matt Barnes trying to stick the ball in his face, and he doesn't flinch. And not that that's a big moment, but to me, it's very symbolic of his personality.
It depicts him.
It's the Mamba
He's focused on
mentality
something.
right
It's
there.
just you're not going to stop me from being focused on what I'm doing. He's the closest thing to Jordan's mentality of winning games. I think that we see LeBron's just way different mentality, I think, than those guys. So that was the cool part, I think.
Yeah, I more remember the time period, like the early 2000s, like the three-peat time period, because
Dominance.
First of all, his fro was just awesome. When he was younger, he had the best fro.
He did.
And if you look at my Instagram, I responded to the social media post last night, and I said my favorite moment was his fro when he was in his rookies, right? Because I think I just
respect.
I think that's when I first got exposed to Kobe, right? That's when you saw the most of him, right?
Yeah.
When he was there the most, right? Because Michael was at the end. Like he probably got overshadowed towards the end of his career because LeBron had so much hype.
He did, and he was injured, Kobe.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And so I remember the time period. By the way, is the first time our parents left all 4 kids alone in California. And I remember, our sister Jean Marie, her friends were over to watch the finals.
Yes.
Right? So
They played the Nets.
They were over to watch the finals. And you've got Derek Fisher and Robert Horry. Derek Fisher was just draining threes.
Yes, I remember that.
Right? Like that was, those were, that's kind of what I remember about it. And you mentioned the injury. Well, so I picked up this book called Relentless. It's by Tim Grover, who's the trainer he was a trainer for Kobe, Michael, LeBron, like all the top athletes in the world. And so before I was going to buy it, I just read the introduction. I was like, I wonder if I'll like this. And it opens with, and this was on Saturday, but it opens with the story of Kobe tearing his Achilles tendon on the floor and not, falling down in desperation or like limping off the court, but walking up to the free throw line and draining 2 free throws and then just walking like off the court and directly into rehab. Like, okay, next chapter, let's go.
Yep.
And so
that was just in case it wasn't ruptured. He didn't want to be
that's
eliminated from the game that night, so he'd come back in the fourth. I mean, doesn't that just like epitomize? And it's funny how you say it brings you back to when you're in California. It's amazing the moments.
Yeah.
I guess for people like us, you'll know. I remember exactly where I was sitting on 20 different sporting events.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I guess yesterday's one of those days when wherever you found out this
Yeah.
news. And today's age, you just hope it's fake news or
It's not real.
Which half the stories, the media yesterday is a travesty for what went on there.
Yeah,
Rick Fox is dead.
tough.
The whole family. Can we wait and get the real story before we tweet? That's the world we live in.
And if you guys mentioned before, you were talking about different situations in history that this could equate to. The first one I thought about, not that I was alive for it, was Thurman Munson. Thurman Munson, the captain of the New York Yankees, died in a plane crash in 1979 suddenly. And I remember, having seen video and read up on that history, and then was able to listen to Michael Kay talk a little bit about it too. The Yankees took the field that day. Nobody went to home plate. But for me, it's simple. 2009, averaged 32.5 points in the NBA Finals, won his 4th championship, the only first championship without Shaq, in the number 24. And to me, that's the moment, because that was the moment where Kobe Bryant kind of said to everybody, yeah, we did it that way, but we could do it this way too. He transformed his game. He was the NBA scoring leader. He became an MVP of the league. And he just showed you that you can be more than just one elite athlete. You can be a multitude of different type of elite athletes based on what your team needs. And in that 2009 finals, and in 2010, because he was the NBA Finals MVP in 2010 too, they needed Kobe Bryant to be an MVP. And it felt like a re-arrival of what was essentially the best player in the league at the time. And what I want to do, guys, and while we wait for John to call in, and of course, anyone, 609-807-2492, feel free to call in and get on the Rome Show and what you want to feel. So I put on the polls yesterday, and I know we usually save the fan interactions for later on in the show, but we asked what people's favorite Kobe memory was, and we got a lot of responses, and I figured you guys might want to hear some of these. Everything he's done for women's in sports to pave the path for his daughter. And I think that's been a huge story. And Rob, you mentioned that about wanting to find a picture with Gianna so that if you were going to put something up to appropriately mourn these lives, you wanted to do it the right way. And when you heard that she was on that helicopter, it hit you a different way too. And to hear all the things now that he's done for the women's game, for his daughter, for the growth of women's basketball is impressive. Continuing on, someone else wrote in the 2001 NBA Finals. That was against the 76ers, I believe, that NBA Finals.
The second one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember him telling Philly fans he hated him. He didn't care he was from Philly. He hated him. He wanted to win. And side note, Rube, Jonathan's trying to get on the phone here. He just shot me a text if you want to see if the phone lines are tied up or if you can give him a call. Moving on as we wait for Jonathan, the ball fake without the flinch, Rob, as you just mentioned, and his first championship without Shaq. Right in there as well, I could agree. When he hit 2 free throw shots with a torn Achilles to tie the game against the Warriors. He was my biggest inspiration to get back on the field after I tore my Achilles. That's the other thing, too. You don't realize how the individual athlete may have had a situation in their lifetime where they were struggling with something and they took something from Kobe and his career and who he was, and it helped them through that situation. And then this is my favorite one, and I saved this one for last because I think that this one is the ultimate, ribbon on our ability to maybe speak positively about the life that he left behind, and continue to move forward with his legacy. Shooting paper balls into a garbage, yelling out Kobe. I mean, to me, guys, that doesn't that tell you everything you need to tell you?
Yes.
We had MJ. We have LeBron. But to this day, whether it's me at 29, right, somebody at 45, or a kid at 15, when you shoot something into the trash can, you yell Kobe.
Yeah.
That just tells you what he did.
I typically miss.
Yo, me too. 100%. And Kobe would probably say, stick to your day job.
Yeah, no doubt.
Only do it when you're shooting hoops.
Yeah.
But so I thought that was some interesting writings from the fans there.
There's common themes. I think if you polled 100 people, you'd get those same 5 or 10 moments. I think it's just it's the like something about that. If you could be defined by one name in the NBA, it's almost like every star has been the one name. It's Michael, it's Magic, Kobe, LeBron. That's been the last 30 years of NBA. It's amazing how the sport sets up that way. It seems to roll from one star to the next dynasty to the next dynasty. And
it is very dynamic. Like, that's basketball.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's like, oh, you know, all these, like, when they went to Miami, you know, everyone's like, oh, they're making super teams, they're doing this. And you're just like, that's been the NBA forever. You know, that's literally been how it's gone.
And I mean, that was from 2000 to 2010 was pretty much alternating Spurs and Lakers championships.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
watching those battles. But the cool part of the Lakers, I guess, was the total go back to the bottom in the middle of that and somehow get back to the top. And
Yeah.
I think the word that best described Kobe's career is just kind of, there was always the redemption. There was, you know, he had to come back from his own personal thing, you know, with the lawsuit and all that, and found his way back to the top. Everything was prove it without Shaq. He fought, you know, that's a lot of other guys didn't have to. I mean, some of it was self-inflicted, obviously, but you know, a lot of them didn't have to come all the way back from a lottery pick type team to go back to win a title.
You're right. And so here's a little bit of what Derek Jeter said in his article that he wrote on the Players Tribune, which I urge everybody to go read. When I think of Kobe, I really just end up thinking about those special few personal conversations that we were lucky enough to share together. Each time one of us had a new baby daughter, I end up thinking about how here was this guy who was beyond gifted as an athlete, who was obsessed with being a champion, who was known as an absolute assassin with a ball in his hands. And in the moments I got to spend with him, he didn't really talk about any of that. He cared much more about being a husband to Vanessa and a dad to his girls. He loved his family. He was family. That what was important. Derek Jeter would go on to finish his post later on saying, "Rest in peace, Gianna Bryant. Rest in peace to the other passengers on board. And rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Who knew that his life was only as important as the love he had for the people in it? Who knew that he was born to play basketball, but it was family over everything?" You know, yeah. I think wow is the only thing you can say back to that.
I went back on the Athletic and read the night he announced this was going to be
the Kobe piece.
My last year. And just reading that kind of epitomized who he was. But, you know, that kind of stuck with me, how he said, I gave basketball my heart, and I can't give it anymore, and this will be my last year. And at the time, you're like, come on, it's a little...
Yeah, right?
I know. And it was the truth about him, though. That's what he did with all that stuff.
It's funny. It's funny. You see, like, the best athletes in the world, like, they're either going to be done because of injury, they're going to be done because someone told them it's time to be done. I mean, just look right here at home. Eli Manning was told. Like, he didn't get to retire. Oh, nice. It looks like we're going to get our caller. That's pretty cool.
Hello?
And then, no, is that John?
Yellow.
John, what's going on? You are on the Rome Show.
Hey, John, how's it going? Andrew Romanella here. My brother, Rocky Romanella, our guest, Rob DeToma. Really appreciate you taking a second to get on the show tonight. Well, it looks like we lost John, so we'll have to get those technical difficulties back.
Yeah, we were talking about how Kobe wrote the letter before he retired before his last season, and how we were saying, like, all superstar great athletes, it's either like an injury or someone tells them it's time to go. And I said, kind of pretty similar to Eli Manning, really.
Right.
And then you have someone who can go out on their own terms, and really, I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't go be a serviceable sixth man or whatever and kind of end his career that way. But that's just not the type
Who he is.
Yeah, it's just not who they are. You
Right.
know, when they have the opportunity, they know what they have to give to be that good. And so when they know they can't give it, that's when it's out. And I like that. I like how you can feel their appreciation when you see like what they write. And I think when you look at Derek Jeter and what he says about Kobe, I think those are in my opinion, they're two very similar people. I mean, I think Kobe was probably a little bit more brash with maybe the media and the way he was perceived sometimes than Derek Jeter. But I think when you look at what they've done after and what they've done both by being outlets to current players and mentors to current players, there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, we're going to talk about Eli Manning here in a little bit. And, I think it's a good note. It's kind of crazy, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
To an automated.
It's kind of crazy when you think about how we had an opportunity to watch some of the most iconic players in sports. Kobe Bryant's the example today because of what happened. But you look at Derek Jeter, you look at Eli Manning. We, in our generation, and all of us are around the same age, were able to see some of the greatest guys of all time. And it's really cool to find out later on how close they are. How some of these great athletes are just like you and I, where we chat. We talk. Yeah. Well, the athletic
talking
playing
part,
ability,
yeah.
the talking part's the same. The athletic playing ability part might be different. So let's do this. Rube, let's go to a break. We'll break, and then maybe we can see if we can get Jonathan back on the phone after the break, and then we can go from there. How's that sound? All right, so we will be back in a minute here on The Rome Show. Are you looking to become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment? Well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles. Welcome back into the Rome Show here on a Monday, January 27th at 7:31 here at Hamilton Radio, hamiltonradio.net, channel 2. Facebook.com/The Rome Show 1. We appreciate everybody writing in on the Facebook. We appreciate everybody that wrote in on the Instagram as well. Somebody wrote in, who was Kobe's main rival?
Kobe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point.
No, I think so too.
I think Kobe.
He's
I think everyone wanted to be Michael, and then it was LeBron came in. So, like you guys say, he was he had to chase down one, and then the new Mike was following him. So, I think he always had that mentality where it's just, I don't really care what anyone thinks, or I'm going to do. I know what it takes to get to where I need to be, so I'm chasing me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well, let's do this, okay? Because we got a little bit on the Derek Jeter. We got a little bit on the Eli Manning. Well, here's what I'd like to do, fellas, and I think you're both going to agree with me on this one. Before we move forward on this show, some of the stuff we've seen in the NBA, some teams have let the shot clock expire for 24 seconds.
That was awesome.
Took an 8-second backcourt violation. The NBA released today that the Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles Lakers game tomorrow is going to be postponed, and that game will be played on another day. So what I would like to do is I want to put the timer on my phone here, and I think I would like the Rome Show right now to take a 24-second moment of silence for Kobe Bryant before we move forward here. It's hard to move forward in the sports world. Unfortunately, we only get once a week to talk. We have the Super Bowl coming up, and we have some other things we'd like to get to, but we wanted to give Kobe Bryant, his family, the Altobelli family, and everybody that was lost in that horrific accident yesterday, the time that they deserve us to spend on them. So if you would join the Rome Show right now in a 24-second moment of silence in honor of not just Kobe Bryant, but everybody that passed on that horrific plane flight. Thoughts and prayers to Kobe Bryant. If we can get John on the show, fellas, before the show ends, I'd love to hear his opinion on it as well. Looking to try and move forward here the best way we can on the Rome Show. 7:33, Andrew Romanella, Rocky Romanella, Rob DeToma here with you. To be mentioned, Rob's been on the show before. Rob is currently the head baseball coach at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck. That's the Division I institution for Fairleigh Dickinson. So we're super stoked to have Rob on the show. And a lot of the reason why we brought Rob on the show today was because of his innate ability to predict football happenings. And in the past, Rob and I have had a lot of great football conversation. And this one I feel like is going to be some of the most fun we've had because of the type of Super Bowl we have lined up right now. The Chiefs, the 49ers, one of the best offenses, one of the best defenses. Rob, the Rome Show is going to give you the opportunity to get this kicked off here. You don't got to give me a prediction right now, but I know that there are some thoughts swirling around in that mind.
The battle for Joe Montana.
There's always thoughts. There's always thoughts. I don't know, though. Like, we watched the first round together at the convention. I've been way off with who I thought was going to win
Titans.
these games. Your reactions to watching every Tennessee first down. I wish the crowd out there could have seen you in that restaurant
I was in my element.
outside of Nashville.
Cheering for Ryan Tannehill, right?
Screaming every first
Tannehill
down.
for president.
You would have thought
Tighten up.
You would have thought he had some prop bet on the amount of first down because every first down was a Romo scream fest. So
At Hooters and some red.
that just shows you the exact the amount of hatred
wings.
out there for New England, and you'll root for anybody against New England. But I think you get historically these matchups in a top-ranked offense versus a top-ranked defense Super Bowl. The defense has always won, almost all of them. But that's not stopped me from. It's really hard for me right now to go against Patrick Mahomes and what he can do. Something inside of me. Andy Reid has been one of the best coaches in the league for a long, long time, as far as consistency, as far as class, how he approaches each game. One of the great coaches of all time, off extra time bye week record. It's going to be hard for me to. Just feel like. I guess you could say some of it about the Niners, how their last week went. But to me, everything has broken the Chiefs' way this year. And I feel like it's just Andy Reid's got to get one of these. The league's got to whatever. He's earned it. He's worked his butt off for a long time. It's like I feel like it's destiny time, and he's finally, even in that AFC Championship game when it looked like Reid was getting a little tight, he's finally got the guy that could bail him out of his tight. Nist in these days. I mean, that play before the half that Mahomes makes while Andy's botching the clock like he tends to do in these games, except now he's got a quarterback who can scramble 36 yards and break 4 tackles.
That's the difference maker.
He is unbelievable, Mahomes, and I think you could say the moment might be too big for him here, but he has never shown that to be the case. He's from a father who pitched in the major leagues for a long time, grew up in locker rooms of professional sports. I don't think there's anything that's going to overwhelm them, and they've already been down in these games where they could have they've looked death in the face a couple. I mean, they're down 24 points to Houston. And in the blink of an eye, like watching Golden State with all those guys, they're up by 20, So, but there's nothing to take away from the Niners. I think we're shaping up for a real classic situation here.
Incredible analytics. Not only can he cite the game, but he can also cite his father's in the MLB Major League ranks, saying that it's in his bones. Patrick Mahomes was built to win this game for Andy Reid.
He won't be nervous, I'll tell you that.
No, I know. And not only can he trace the family roots back to strong athletic blood, but he can also say that the NFL with the NFL Referees Association will be in cahoots and believes that Andy Reid winning a Super Bowl is better than essentially Bill Belichick winning one for drafting Jimmy
Nah.
Garoppolo.
Not what I was saying.
No,
I think the football gods
Yeah.
will play in the game, and Andy Reid deserves one of
I
these.
think
But
he does.
Yeah,
but
he
Shanahan,
might.
but the other sidelines got some well-steeped football history on their sideline as far as Shanahan's son and
Yeah.
all that. So I mean, listen, if they play D
They
like
do.
that,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot. There's a lot of
there
football
is.
history.
No
in
one's
this
gonna
game.
be. Garoppolo's the only one I think can go into this game a little nervous because he's shown that, but they've shown they can win games with him throwing 8 times. So I think they could run the ball down the Chiefs' throat, and if they control the game, that's going to be the game. But your boy Spagnuolo,
Oh,
who
yeah.
we give all this credit to, who I've never been impressed with.
Wow.
But he has done a good
It's
job.
the Chiefs defensive coordinator,
Yeah,
correct?
he's the Chiefs now, and
Well,
he's
yeah,
done a really good job
I mean, the
transforming them into something that if they just got to be good half the time.
Good
I mean,
enough.
they're
good
better
enough.
than-
Just good enough.
They're better than they were last year, though.
Oh,
The
they
defense.
are.
I mean,
100.
the defense.
Did you
is the reason
hear?
They suck.
Did you hear the crazy statement that Stephen A. Smith made, saying that Alex Smith would be able to bring this team to the Super
Stop.
Bowl?
Stephen A. Smith shouldn't be allowed to commentate on anything but basketball.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry.
I feel like
He's
that's
not
all.
qualified. He's not a qualified sports analyst, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, that's a bad opinion.
It's a legitimate opinion.
But Alex Smith did have these. Alex Smith had this team and couldn't get past the Titans.
That's what I
you know,
said.
So I mean, I
Marcus
think
Mariota.
him and when Skip Bayless was there, these guys just say things. So now we're talking about it.
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the epitome
they
of
did a good
ESPN. If you don't understand the game of football, if you think Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith could do the same thing right now, nobody wins that There's a couple quarterbacks in the league can win that Texan game in that fashion,
Yeah.
coming back from
Yeah.
that many points down that fast in one quarter.
That's the only thing that scares me about them, though.
They're sloppy.
Right,
Yeah.
early.
They're sloppy. They jump off sides 5 times
Yeah.
in the AFC champion. So I mean, they seem to have the quarterback who can bail them out. But sooner or later that might catch up to you.
Don't
They've
you have
got-
the feeling that Shanahan is like the dude that is so buttoned up on that stuff?
Yeah, they do things right, but I don't know. They seem like the sideline that'll be a little more nervous. Besides Andy, but I think he's got to let it loose here, and I think he's so good in these preparation of even in the Super Bowl they lost to New England when he was in Philly. They outgained him by 2. It was just a couple turnovers and
They shouldn't have played Terrell Owens in that game.
caught 14 balls in that game.
Yeah,
Wasn't enough
he
for
was
you?
so good. no, it's just because he wasn't in the
He
first
didn't
3
play the
playoff
first-
games.
he
Yeah,
was out
it's
for
like
8
one of those
weeks.
superstitious things. But I tell you what, the Chiefs have some real team unity happening right now. I don't know if you saw, but they all flew dressed as Andy Reid.
I did not see that.
Yeah, they all had like Chiefs Hawaiian button downs on with like a top hat or something like that.
I mean, it's funny, but even going into the AFC Championship, when they asked Mahomes about this is your chance to go to your first Super Bowl, and it was almost like a full team motto. They all had the same answer. We got to get Andy. Andy belongs in the Super Bowl. Like, it just seems like they're really bought into their head coach, and that could go a long way, I think, sometimes in these things. And maybe he's got them believing that it's all their time. And like you guys were hinting at before the show, you never know if you're going to get back there. It looks like you'd say 10 years of Mahomes, and it's back-to-back AFC champion, but. We've seen this before, and
Mark Sanchez.
Marino. You've seen it.
You know?
I wouldn't put quite the talent of Mark Sanchez in the category of Mahomes, but
no.
But as a Jet fan, that was the beginning of a great run. We thought, and haven't seen a playoff game since. So
think about
it
that.
happens fast in the NFL. It's a sport where 60% of the teams don't even repeat as a playoff entry.
Yeah, that's
team,
what's
so.
crazy about it. It's like you look at both these teams and you're like, oh man, this could be a dynasty, but like there's only one New England Patriots.
No, it really makes you appreciate how good I think Reed is because he on average wins 11 games a year, and he's never had the elite quarterback till now. I mean, McNabb was all right, but we're talking he's never had the Brady, the Rodgers,
Right.
And it really makes you appreciate how awful McCarthy was at his job. In
Right.
So good Dallas,
Good thing
good
they-
hire.
good job,
Good thing they
Dallas.
had that sleepover
Yes.
at Jerry's house, and they
Talk
solved
about
all the
that.
issues.
What did the NFC East
That's
just
amazing. Like, what they do? Like, they drank beers and
It's
shot
just-
their guns.
It's
Like,
just
I don't
so
know what they
embarrassing
did.
that they would feel like that's something we need to share. and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
world
Why does
wants to
everyone
hear.
know that? Like, we had a slumber party, decided we'd be great together.
Jerry's world. It's Jerry's world.
Oh, it looks like, fellas, we are potentially able to get John on the phone. So we'll take this phone call from John Macri real quick. He wants to jump in on the line and talk a little bit about Kobe Bryant.
I'm here.
John, how's it going? Just to give everybody a little intro on John before we get going, okay? John is the host of the New York Knicks Film School podcast. He's also been published on a few different big-time sports websites. John, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time to come on to the Rome Show tonight and talk about what has been a really tough day, not only in basketball, but just in the world in general.
I appreciate you giving me a chance to come on. It's been quite a last 20, I guess about 28 hours now. Still trying to process everything, honestly. The strangest part of which is that, and I don't think I'm the only person necessarily who feels this way today, but just trying to come to grips with why this is hitting as hard as it is. I mean, people that we grow up watching and rooting for and admiring from afar, they pass away all the time, but and even, sometimes younger than we'd like, but there's something about Kobe passing that it just seems to hit very differently. And I think that's, and I think that there's a lot of reasons for that may be different for different people. But I definitely think there is no one who woke up today or who went to bed last night that was not touched in a very particular way by what happened.
Yeah, and John, again, thanks. We really appreciate you being on the show. Obviously, you have a little bit more exposure to the NBA than any of us will ever have. So, what can you talk about? Kobe's presence, in an arena or just what you're seeing from some of the people that you go day to day with. Maybe people that work at MSG that had a chance to see him play or had a chance to walk by him in the hallway, or maybe even some of the players that you've had an opportunity to come in contact with. Like, did you know if any of them had good relationships? What's that feeling like, and what kind of presence was around that you remember, or you are feeling is lost now?
So I actually I wasn't covering the game last night. My colleague Alex Wolf was doing that one. I'll be covering the game against the Grizzlies on Wednesday. So I'll probably have a better sense of the answer to that question after that. What I can say, just from kind of being around the players, to the short extent that I have been able to this year. I mean, the thing about Kobe was there's no one in any locker room that's playing in the game today that he didn't drastically influence their basketball upbringing. Even, I think the thing that honestly probably stands out the most to me is you look last night at a guy like Trae Young, and obviously Trae Young was a rookie, several years after Kobe retired. I mean, he was still, I think he was something like a freshman or a sophomore in high school when Kobe played his last game in the NBA. And he goes and he changes his jersey number to start the game, and he takes a backcourt violation, and then he goes out and he has arguably the game of his life in Kobe's memory. And that's a guy that never even played with Kobe, and then you got a guy like Julius Randle who, Randle has had a rough year, but every single game, no matter how rough a night he has had, after the game's over for the Knicks, he'll be there at his locker, being the first one ready to answer questions, no matter how bad the nights have been. And last night he, couldn't bring himself to do that. He was out. He left the locker room before the reporters even got in there. And that's totally understandable because, again, he's the one guy on the Knicks that played with Kobe when he was still with the Lakers and kind of had that existing relationship. And then you see a guy like, Kyrie Irving couldn't even stay in the arena. I don't think that there is, at least not in my lifetime at least, I don't think that there's anyone in any sport that has kind of had the effect on, everybody else in it, like Kobe did. And that translates in so many different ways in terms of how they play the game, and just how they go about their business, I think, off the court to a certain extent as well. He was everything to these guys.
John, Rob Detelma here. One quick question. We were discussing the Mamba mentality and what it meant to us as kind of in our careers, coaches or as
Sure.
fans. I was just wondering, you being so close to the action there, is it as present as we make it out to be? Is it something that players talk about? I mean, coaching college kids, our pitching staff last year wanted that to be the word. We wanted one word. I told them it was two. I regret it now. I wish we had it, but they wanted that to be the word that represented our pitching staff, Mamba mentality. So is that something that's as present amongst professional athletes, or is that something we kind of made a much bigger thing than it is?
No, it's funny you ask about that particular phrase because like a lot of us have just been trying to, as much as I can, because I can only, I want to consume a lot of the stuff that's being written today because it's so good and it makes you think and helps you process everything. But at the same time, you can only kind of take so much of it. But that phrase just keeps appearing over and over and over again. And it's, I wrote about it this morning. I think it's so much more than a catchphrase. I mean, I was reading something, I think that actually came out last night, about how, there was like a young player that came onto the Lakers like many, many, many years ago. And he was kind of, a guy that, and I forget his name, but it was someone that had always kind of like been the grunt, or first guy in the gym, last guy to leave. And he got drafted by the Lakers and figured, all right, well, I'm still going to be, the first guy in the gym. And then he shows up on his first day and, Kobe's already there, like, full sweat. That was Kobe Bryant. Like there was no one that was going to outwork him. And I think when so again, going back to Randall, he had said a few years ago that, Kobe had talked to him about how, he used Michael Jackson as an example. Like when Michael Jackson went on stage, like he didn't have to break a sweat because he had done all of his preparation beforehand. And I think that was Kobe's mentality in that he was going to make sure that he outworked everybody before he went on the court so that, the results would speak for themselves when he got on there. And that, that doesn't mean he was always successful. He missed more shots than anybody in NBA history by a healthy margin. But he just was undeterred, and he felt, and I think that's really what the other part of like Mamba mentality is the idea that you have to always be confident and you have to always believe in your abilities, even if you have an off night, And I think towards the end of his career and like a lot of analytically focused people over the last few years have tried to downplay his accomplishments because they look at him and they say, well, he wasn't as efficient as, let's say your James Harden or whoever today. But I think that's kind of all baked into what made him him. And I think the fact that there is not a player playing today that doesn't just have the utmost respect for how he went about his business that tells you everything you need to know about Kobe and kind of, the respect that he generated and just if the players think that highly of him, I think that's all that really, matters.
We're talking to John Macri, host of the Knicks Film School podcast and also writer for Knicks Sports Illustrated, Odds Checker, USA, and The Step Back. John, did we just lose John? I think we just lost John. Well, if we get John back on before the show, we'll be able to last. We only had one more question for him, but either way, fellas,
Technology's winning.
winning today. Oh my gosh!
Can I get one more thing on this?
Get in there.
So I think that over the last couple years, right? Probably 5 to 10, it is Michael Jordan versus LeBron James.
Yes.
In every single conversation. And it's sad that it took this much reflection to remember, but I mean, you're seeing stories being told, and you're seeing a memory of a player who, what was he better than is he better than LeBron? Is he bigger than Michael Jordan? Probably not, but right, what you're seeing, I think, more importantly, is almost like what Tiger Woods did to this crop of golfers in the PGA Tour. Like it was just, it was just Michael. Like, I mean, yeah, you had Steve Nash and you had Karl Malone and you had the guys on the Pistons and everything. But do you think that Kobe maybe influenced more of the generation playing today than Michael did for when Kobe came up?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I think when you look at what Michael Jordan did for the game of basketball was, I feel like, besides being, as Rob would probably argue, the greatest player of all time, right? He transcended the type of basketball player that you were. Magic kind of started that. Michael Jordan kind of finished it. This is a different style of basketball. There's a little bit more flair. There's more excitement. We can jump out of the gym. We can shoot from three. We're confident. We're going to be better than you, and we know it type of mentality. And I think that the reason why our generation is so enamored with Kobe is because when you looked at Michael when his career was over, you said, okay, he's the greatest basketball player of all time. You didn't think anyone could ever do that. And then 10 minutes later, Kobe Bryant was there. And it was almost like he was drafted out of high school, didn't even play college basketball. He was Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. I mean, when you talk about a guy that we followed in high school to then see what his professional career would be, I mean, MJ got cut from his high school team. And Kobe got drafted out of high school. So when you look at it from that area, and then he went on to be as great as he was from the get-go, I think that's why it's so big to our generation of kid, because it was like, we didn't see Michael, right? I mean, yeah, I saw Michael, but I was born in 90.
You got Space Jam Michael.
Yes, I got tail end. I got 90s Michael, right? I didn't get the build-up of Michael in the 80s.
Right, yeah.
Kids in the
We didn't
90s.
get to watch the Pistons
Right.
series, right?
I caught a little of it, but
Right.
you saw when he started winning. So
Yes.
all our generation saw was this guy never loses.
Yes.
But I think the biggest difference, I think Michael gave everybody in that generation something to chase. There was
Yes.
no
Sure.
debate.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And what Kobe did, I think he embraced the younger athlete even more. I don't know if and maybe Jordan did too, but Kobe, you see, like everyone has this extreme love, like they felt like his brother. And I think with Mike, it was
Opposite.
I said Mike like I know him. I think with Jordan, it was we're chasing that. That is the level of greatness. And with Kobe, I think he made everyone feel like, I'm great, but this is how you get there. This is
doubt.
the mentality. And I don't think Mike shared that. He just said, I'm a sniper. I'm an assassin. I'm here to win championships.
That's right.
Come get me.
And Andrew, you just made a good point. I mean, do you think that, let's say, what if Kobe doesn't exist and does LeBron go to college? Or, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
guys came out of high school before, but never like Kobe, right?
know.
Garnett was like the first couple
Yeah.
of years before that. But yeah, it wasn't a big thing yet.
Right? But I mean, let's say, what if Kobe went to college? Does LeBron go to college?
Please leave your
Right,
message
you're
for
100%. And you know what?
917.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're leaving a message.
Oh, nice.
Hey, Rube. There we go. Yeah, that's a great question. And I heard an interview that was done with Kobe Bryant, maybe a day or two after, right before he got drafted, and the interviewer asked, why would you not go to college? And Kobe said, because it's a challenge. I want the challenge. And it's like, man, at 17 years old, you could realize you got that challenge. And did we just get Jonathan back on the phone?
Yes,
Yes,
I'm
we did.
sorry. I called you up before, but I am indeed back.
No, you are completely okay. I mean, well, now that we have you back, we had one more question for you, Jonathan, before
Sure.
we were trying to let you go, but you got let go a little early. We wanted to give you the platform because, Rob took a minute, Rocky took a minute, I took a minute today, and we wanted to give you a minute to just talk about your biggest Kobe memory, whether it was just watching him in a generation, whether it was something you saw in person, whether it was an act that you found out about later on. Just touch on, what he means to you individually and that memory that's going to be lasting for you forever.
Oh, goodness. It's hard to pick one because I would say, I started just watching the sport as a fan in, I would say, like 92, 93. But those first few years, like you're I was a young kid, and you're kind of still getting used to like what it is, what the NBA is. And I would say Kobe's rookie year, that rookie class specifically, him and Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Ray Allen, all those guys was like the first generation of players that I felt like, okay, like these are the guys that I'm going to grow up with. And then to spend the next 20 years watching him and kind of see that whole career. If I had to pick one memory, to be honest with you, it would probably, and I'd seen him in person a bunch of times, but probably have to be his last game. Just because I remember watching that, and I was in New York, and you were watching, almost in disbelief at something that was clearly happening because you were watching it, and it didn't seem real that someone in their very last game could go out the way that he went out and score 60 points. It was, to this day, I don't think that I've ever seen anything quite like it. Not that it's necessarily the most impressive athletic feat or anything. I mean, he took 50 shots, which hasn't been done since. It hadn't been done for a long time before. But it was just, it spoke to who he was and the fact that he was going to go out on his terms. And I think if nothing else, you had to respect that. And I guess the only other thing I'll say is, I think almost the best way to put today and, to put it into perspective, it's almost like, I'll steal, my wife actually said this line to me before. It's like there's a glitch in the system that this happened because he clearly had so much more life to live and so much more good to do. That was going to be, around the sport of basketball, but I think his reach was going to extend even further than that. It already kind of had, and I think he was just getting started. And it's just there's just few people that are blessed with that kind of talent and the will to I guess execute it, so to speak, and do it in a positive way. And obviously him as a dad and everything. So I think that's just why it's a sad day, but it's also a stunning day, and I'm sure it's one we will all collectively never forget.
Well, John, we really, really appreciate you taking the time. Our goal and our hope is that we can get you back on this show. We will iron out all of the difficulties we had getting you on the show today, but you are more than welcome back on. And thank you so much. And we will be following Nick's Film School. We will be following Nick's SI and everything else you do. I already know I'm a big fan, but the Rome Show is a fan as well. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Have a great night. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Well, I think when we came onto the show today, guys, I'm talking to Rocky, right? I talked to Rob a little bit before, and I'm going, is it possible that you could talk about Kobe for the full hour of the show? And we'll get a little bit more football in here before we leave. I think we got a few more extra minutes here, some technical difficulties, but I appreciate John, and I appreciate everything that we were able to do, and I'm going to leave it at that. And as we go on, I think we'll all do the best we can to have our own type of Mamba mentality. And to leave it at this, and I'm going to put it in the words of John right there, be confident and believe in your abilities. That's the ultimate Mamba mentality. And a parallel I want to make is kind of what John just said about Kobe's last game, but, he said there was nothing really like it. Well, in my opinion, Derek Jeter's was really like that.
Yes.
Last home game?
Last home game.
Yeah.
He had never played a game at Yankee Stadium where they were out of playoff contention, and he gets the walk-off hit to win the game.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Special people find special moments, and then you could even talk about Eli in that light. It's not a last game, but for Eli to beat Tom Brady in those 2 Super Bowls, that's not even fathomable. Like the line in one of those games was like 15 points. There wasn't even supposed to be a shot for the Giants. So it's crazy when you look at some of the careers from some of the legendary players and how, some of it could be luck, but more of it's preparation that gets them really prepared for that moment. When it happens, they nail it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's one of those things you're born with, I think. Like you have, and I think that actually I think it was a Kobe quote I heard today, but I know we're moving on. But I think it was I want to be remembered for having incredible skill, but I want to be known for the work ethic I put in to make it special. And I think when you talk like Derek Jeter and you make that parallel, I mean, that's exactly the same guy. I mean, Derek Jeter, All-American guy. All-American boy.
Yeah.
Right. He's got it all. He, never had an issue. But to go out on top like that, it was great. I mean, even someone that doesn't have that height, but similar height at this point from an entertainment standpoint, but like even a Michael Strahan getting to retire after a Super Bowl win.
Peyton Manning.
Right, Peyton Manning gets to retire after a Super Bowl win. I mean, there's some cool stories out there that a lot of people can like lean on like that.
Yeah. Well, so we had a few write-ins as the show's gone on.
Yeah, a lot of big time listeners, very appreciative.
A lot of listeners, very appreciative. To finish the Super Bowl conversation, all right, because we haven't gotten the predictions yet, and some people are writing in predictions.
Love it.
All right. We got a prediction write-in that said the 49ers would win 38-24. I just don't see them scoring that many points. I don't know if their offense could do that. Here's another one. Who will have a bigger game, Kittles or Kelsey?
Wait,
it continues. Would you rather have the 49ers defense up 4 with 2 minutes left at the 50 or Patrick Mahomes down 4 at the 50?
Okay, Mahomes. In the NFL today, I want the offense with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I would take it the other way if I was the Niners too. I'd take Garoppolo.
Yeah, I'd take them both. I don't know.
I'm on either side.
I think you're crazy if you think you're and they might get a stop, but the way the rules are, the way the league's set up, you always want the ball in your hand.
And by the way, there's a great quote from Eli Manning after Super Bowl Uno in 07, and it was about how he and Peyton talked about if he's going to be in a tight situation, he'd rather be down 4 with the ball to have to score a touchdown than down 3 and have to kick a field goal to tie.
Well, yeah, because now you're taking the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, no doubt.
And every great player wants a ball in their hands. All right, so
Yeah.
I don't care who of you goes first, but I want the Super Bowl prediction right now.
We'll let Rob go first.
I'll put you on the spot there, Robbie.
We still got 6 days, and a lot can happen on Super Bowl week in years past. Some guys go out too much, some guys get in trouble.
Get too excited for the moment.
But if I'm forced right now, I'm gonna lean towards the Chiefs. I'm on that Reed Destiny kick right now.
I agree.
And I think it's kind of correlated for them to win. It can't be a lower scoring game. It has to be. I by no means think it's going to be like Saints Niners regular season 52-49 type game, but that rare you don't see that in the Super Bowl. But there is this game I think is a high variance. Like it could be like Seattle Denver where that defense just dominates, and we're watching a 40-10
in 12 minutes into the game.
Yeah, it could be that where the Niners dominate, or you could have a Mahomes goes off like a Joe Montana Super Bowl where he throws 4 or 5 touchdowns. It could happen, but I as a fan, you want to see the game be a game. So I'm going to stick in that 20s range, like a 27-21, 24-21 type game. But I do think you'll see this game has some capability of being a back and forth, not fireworks show, but 10-7, 14-10, 14.
Yeah.
Staying tight.
Lights go out at halftime. right, yeah.
But I think it has that type of capability. At least that's what I wish every Super Bowl stays within that 10-point range, and we always have a chance to watch, which most of them have been.
Even
lately.
the Super Bowl, like when Tom Brady comes back from down 25, at least you have the entertainment value while you're watching.
Well, anytime you have them down, it's the world's tuning in from one way or the other.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
that was a bore fest for 3 quarters, but everyone was loving it because they hate him.
Before Rocky answers, the best thing that came out of that Super Bowl was the Peyton Manning commercial. Have you seen that Peyton Manning commercial where he's hosting a Super Bowl party and they're up by like 28? He's like, "This is the best Super Bowl ever." And then, like, Tom Brady scores a touchdown. He's like, "They're not coming back." And then like he scores another one. He changes the channel. He's like, "There's way better things on right now." Best thing that came out of that Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like it. So I am. I think I agree with Rob. I think there's a possibility that you see like Chiefs Rams like Sunday night game from a couple years ago when they were supposed to play in Mexico. I could see both offenses going off like that, but I don't know.
I'm laughing at the supposed to play in Mexico.
Well, they were. I mean, that's what happened. No, but I'm gonna stick with the gut pick I made last week, which was the San Francisco 49ers playing sound gridiron worthy football. And I'm going to stick with classic gridiron football as the victor and some good-fashioned run game football and strong defensive play.
Yeah, all right. So what would be the score then on a game like that?
I still think the score will hit like a 24-21, maybe a 28-24, but I think that's where it's gonna land.
You know what's crazy? And it is kind of crazy to think about. And Rob, I think you're going to agree with me so much on this because of how much you enjoy watching Patrick Mahomes. But it's like, if I told you right now, as Kyle Shanahan, you're going to hold Patrick Mahomes to 24 points in the Super Bowl. That's all he gets. Would you take that?
I think
You take it.
I think that's the goal.
Right?
I'd be stunned.
Yeah.
The only thing that would stun me in this game is the Chiefs don't find a way to get to 20
100%.
points.
It's three touchdowns,
Yeah,
right? Like,
we're
I
going to
need
be in the
three.
20s.
I need 3.
I mean, something would have to go drastically wrong.
Right.
Injury or just turnover fest where the team barely shows up. I can't see it. I wouldn't be stunned if the Niners struggled and couldn't get going. But, like I said, I think this game could be a 20-point win by either team if their style comes into play and the other one can't adapt. But I think we're staying in the middle and it's going to be tight for a while.
Yeah, I think, and you know what? I feel like this game has like that Super Bowl. There's going to be a sweet kickoff run return or a punt return.
Well, I think you'll see
right? Like,
you'll
you
see
know what
some
I'm
of those
saying?
weapons back there for the Chiefs on a lot of those punts.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to hold anything back now. So, both teams have that
Right,
capability.
but that's
of some
part.
big plays.
Right, those are some great Super Bowl memories. Are the run, like there's some amazing run backs just in
Yeah.
Super Bowl history.
100%. I remember the Bears one.
Yeah, opening kick.
Was
Yeah.
that Devin Hester?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, man.
Right to the
The
house.
biggest ones I remember is Desmond Howard ran it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
You guys were young, but they beat the Patriots, the Pack, and it was on that kick return that
No, the
put
Pack-
the game
yeah,
away.
yeah, that one's-
Last defensive guy to win a Heisman, correct?
Yeah.
Desmond Howard?
Yep.
I
Only
think you
guy.
got to think Ravens Giants too in 2000. I think there was a run back in that game.
It was back to
Terry
back.
Collins Super
There was
Bowl?
actually back.
Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins?
The Giants forget that one all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
ran
Super
back-
Bowl did
back-
that?
Back-to-back kickoff returns in that game, and that'll never happen again.
All right, so we have a few minutes here because we've obviously gone a little bit over 8 o'clock, so I want to finish this before we have to get out of here. All right. So I came up with a few this or that's for you guys today. Okay, you can choose that statement or you can choose this statement. All right, there's 3 of them here for you. All right, and they stay on the path of winning Super Bowls or being a Hall of Famer and the game of football. Okay, so here we go. Okay, there he is, Ruben. All right,
I don't know what
just
to
a hair lower, Rube. Kind of want to dance to this music. All right, here you go. This or that. Rob, we'll start with you. Do you believe that Sam Darnold and Adam Gase win a Super Bowl? Or that this is going to be the last season for Adam Gase as the head coach of the Jets?
As a diehard Jet fan, and after listening to all about the Mamba mentality tonight, I'm going to go with the first and believe with all my heart
Love
that they're
it.
going to win the Super Bowl.
Rocky.
But I've been believing that since birth.
Yeah, Adam Gase is getting fired.
Which might get them to the Super Bowl fast.
Yeah. So Sam Darnold might win out in both of these scenarios.
Right.
All right, there we go. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes wins more Super Bowls than Eli Manning. So that would be more than 2, 3.
Thanks.
Or this is Patrick Mahomes' only Super Bowl appearance.
No, I think he's gonna tie Eli.
That wasn't one of the
Option
options.
three.
That's not an option.
Yeah, but I don't think he's never going back. So I'm left with nothing.
Well, he hasn't won this one yet.
So
But
what
I
do you-
do think he'll be back.
Yeah.
I don't think he's
Yeah.
not going to be back.
That's the hard part of the question. That's why it's
Yeah,
brilliant. But
yeah.
I'm going to go with more than Eli because I think he's got to go back. So
I'm going to go with this is his only Super Bowl. I have flashes of
Wow.
Dan Marino in here.
No.
Dan Marino, why not? I bet in 1988 you would have said, in 1984 you would have said, Dan Marino, what are you talking about? He's always going to be back in the
He
Super
played
Bowl.
for the Dolphins.
All right. And Patrick Mahomes playing for the Chiefs is not much
it's
different.
taken 50 years for them to
Thank you.
The Dolphins
Thank you.
the Dolphins are forever cursed
Why?
because they had a perfect season.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Last, this or that for today's segment. Eli Manning is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Would you take that or this? Barry Bonds eventually gets elected into the Hall of Fame.
Well, we're going to differ here, but
I personally believe both will happen one day, but for the sake of this, Eli Manning, first ballot Hall of Famer.
he doesn't stick to the rules that
He
much.
doesn't.
if
No,
he's
I
going to.
told you before the show.
Yeah, you know what? And if I stuck to the rules, I'd get an earful from this guy. I'd be like, "Whoa, what's what your one-word answers? Where's your analytics?"
I refuse to believe that the greatest hitter I've ever watched will not someday be in the Hall of Fame.
I
So
agree.
that is where I'm leaning. I have nothing against Eli. What he did on those 2 Super Bowls was absolutely phenomenal, but Barry Bonds got to be in the Hall of Fame.
I couldn't
Yeah, no
agree
doubt.
more. Ruben, you can cut the music. That was this or that for today's segment. Wow,
Sweating. I feel like the speed of the music sped up my heartbeat.
You know where that music's from?
Supermarket sweep, baby.
Supermarket Sweep. What a fantastic
Did
show.
they play it that loud on that? Because I feel like we just played the Super Bowl.
I feel like I could go do one of those old school aerobics videos right now with that stuff. I'm going to agree with Rob, by the way, on that last question. It's not that I believe Eli's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I don't believe the people voting are going to make him a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Brett Favre, the leader in the history of interceptions, was a first ballot Hall of Famer with one Super Bowl.
And Favre just gets so overhyped. Anyway,
does.
It's just amazing. They
That's
put him
what
in
I'm
these
saying.
top fives of all time. I mean, I don't know. I
That's
watched.
what I'm saying.
It's Eli has the 2 rings, which you can't take him away because without those, it's not a Hall of. But he's got 2 of the biggest wins in the history. He changed the history of the NFL with that first Super Bowl that he won.
And by the way, someone just wrote in, Andy Reid is the Dan Marino of coaching.
Love it.
That's wrong. Because now he's at his second Super Bowl.
I know.
So whoever you are, check your facts.
On the content, you can't be yelling at the Romo Sapiens
I'm
like
sorry.
that.
No. We love their support, even if,
But somehow we got to get Barry Bonds. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I agree.
I've watched a zillion baseball games in my
Yep.
life at every level. There's never been. I mean, before my time, maybe I did not see a better hitter pre-post steroids. We don't know when it started. We don't know.
before his Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't see him.
You're right,
you know?
100%.
But I mean, you couldn't even pitch to the guy.
No.
You couldn't pitch to him.
Steroids or no steroids?
We don't know. That's such an era that we just don't know. So why don't we just put a wing of we don't know what was
By the
going
way,
on? But this is the
Barry-
best guy of that time.
Barry
you know?
averaged 45 home runs a season in his first 5 years as a pro.
Yeah, and he-
I've been in this argument so
It's
many
so
times.
dumb.
Yeah. And you know,
And I think, but finally, you used to have a debated, heated argument. I feel like you don't get too many of the no. Barry Bonds is not one of the
Right.
best baseball anymore. There's been so
cross
much.
that bridge.
There's so much other things that have gone wrong with baseball since
Yeah,
the beginning this
exactly.
year that we're almost
forget
so
about it.
over the.
But that's my
these guys
thing.
took steroids when it wasn't a rule thing.
But that's my biggest thing. And I made this point last week, Rob, about Pete Rose. Like, how are we going to still hold Pete Rose against Pete Rose when you got Jose Altuve, Bregman, and the rest of these dudes openly get caught cheating and winning a World Series?
Because they put gambling on a whole separate.
It's
plateau.
unbelievable.
It's
But
crazy.
at the same time, the leagues latch on to DraftKings and FanDuel
So they can
for
make money.
fantasy
Oh,
leagues.
hell
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's the
They don't.
hypocrisy that is professional sports.
crazy.
The NFL ran and hid from Vegas like it wasn't a thing. They wouldn't even let. This is a fact.
Tony Romo.
NBC years ago had the show Las Vegas with James Conn was
yeah,
the-
yeah.
Okay.
and they would not allow that shows to run on the Super Bowl commercial as a promo
Really?
because of we don't want to be associated with Vegas. Now what do we have? You can bet on
Draft
games
Las
everywhere.
Vegas Raiders.
And we
FanDuel
have the
Suites.
Las Vegas, and we're gonna have a draft where guys are paddle boating through the Bellagio fountain. So it's just hypocrisy. If it wasn't, they couldn't get. Let's not fool ourselves. That
Right.
is what made the league what it is.
Right.
So let's just embrace it. We should not have managers gambling on the games. Don't get me wrong.
No,
but
no, of
I think we
course.
gotta. Why can't we put these people in if we're gonna embrace what they did and just I'm sure Pete would be fine with on his plaque saying what he did and why he was banned
doubt.
for baseball for a certain period of
Yes.
time. You know,
Go
I'm
sell
sure
it.
Bonds would say.
Yeah.
Although I don't think we have a failed test on
He
Barry Bonds.
never failed test on him.
No.
So it's hard, but I mean, you can tell me I get in the Hall of Fame and they're going to say, we had a camera for some of the signs. I'm sure Altuve would sign up for his Hall of Fame.
Plaque tomorrow. Yesterday.
And speaking,
So let's just say what it is.
And speaking of Bonds, my favorite. So I played in a fantasy football team league or whatever, a fantasy league in college, and one of the favorite teams I've ever seen in a fantasy was Team Balco.
That is pretty funny, actually.
I love that one.
Fantasy football names. That's a whole nother category. Listen, fellas, it's kind of crazy how football can transition you into Barry Bonds talk and being in the Hall of Fame, but it can go every different direction. We've gone 17 minutes over the 8 o'clock hour, and it feels like we just started this show.
I can go till 2.
I know.
Keep going.
Yeah, if you want, you drove 2 hours to get here. We might as well spend 2 hours on the air.
You never realize how big Jersey is till you get an address, a couple hours before. And 5 o'clock's always a good time to be driving in Jersey. Lived in New York my whole life, and I've never seen anything like this Jersey traffic since I got
Don't
here,
even
so.
get me started.
Rob sends me a text. Rob sends me a text at like 2 o'clock. This is great. He just writes, Am I fired?
Now I know why you were not telling me to address to the last possible minute. I didn't know we were driving to Philly to do the show tonight.
I didn't want you to say no. We wanted you to be here. But we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it's always great.
The seat is always open.
No doubt.
If you need a place to stay so you can crash for the night, we got rooms nearby. But we appreciate everybody that's tuned into the Rome Show today. We appreciate John Macri from the Knicks Film School podcast and Knicks SI and a few other publications for jumping on and sharing his memories of Kobe Bryant. We appreciate Rob for being in on the show today. Our producer, Ruben, for helping us out through some of the technical difficulties. And
Time to go.
You are about to find out about Tighten the Lug Nuts. I promise you that. We appreciate Ruben, my brother Rocky, of course. We will be back next Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. You know the deal. Instagram at Wide World of Rome, Facebook.com/The Rome Show 1. And Romo Sapiens, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Only a giant.
Rube, you're good.
Oh.
Wondering what you were about to say there.
I was getting bumped. Had to get my
To become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment, well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles.
Now it's time for the show. You be the judge. Do this look like work to you? Nah. Looking at the lights like it's all of this for me. Everyone tonight is here. All of this for me. Hands in the air, yeah. All of this for me. Bottles over here. All of this for me. All of this for me.